So we have this code. I posted this code. I'll explain a little bit about what it does. Notice I have 3 bubbles bouncing around. What I'm not going to do is add gravity to these bubbles. I'm going to make it so that we can split them with a laser, okay, like a hero. Okay? So how does this code work? First off, we have class bubble at the bottom, which is a lot like an enemy. So if I click on it, it's a lot like one of our old enemies in Raiden. One of the differences is it has a constructor. Every time you create a new bubble, it randomly puts a position, it randomly changes its speed, and it randomly selects a color. Okay? It also has its own movement. This defines how the bubble moves. And actually I should say the bubbles, because there's more than one bubble. And the main difference between this code and all the code we've written so far is there's more than one bubble, and I don't define them individually. I define them in an array list. Okay? An array list is an infinite list of any object. What object? The object goes right afterwards like this. So it's an infinite list of bubbles. Okay? The name of that list is right here. I could call that whatever I want. List is probably actually a bad name, but we'll go with it for now. But maybe I should have called it all bubbles. Okay? So now, as soon as I start my program, I use a for loop. In the for loop, those of you who've taken grade 11 before or grade 10 probably have seen a for loop. If you're new to the class, probably the first time you've seen it. A for loop is a repeat. Okay? And it repeats as long as I, which starts at 0, is less than 3. And every time it repeats, it adds 1 to I. So that means it's going to repeat how many times? 2? Well, 2 is not a bad guess. It's actually 3 because 0, 1, and 2. Right? 0 counts. And what this does is it says, I'm going to make a new bubble and I'm going to call it B. And then I'm going to add B to the list. Okay? Now, there's a funny thing here. It's confusing. Why don't I have B1, B2, and B3 if I have 3 bubbles? All my bubbles are called B? Isn't that confusing? I have 3 bubbles. They're different bubbles, and they all are called B. Actually, none of them are called B. Because I make one bubble, I call it B, then I make another bubble and I call it B, and I can no longer talk about the old bubble. And then I make another bubble and I call it B, and I can no longer talk about the last 2 bubbles. The only way I'm keeping those bubbles is I add them to a list right here. Okay? So the old way of doing our codes when we had enemy 1, enemy 2, enemy 3, E1, E2, E3, that eventually you can't make a fun game because you need 1,000 enemies. With this, I can say, well, it doesn't matter what they're called. They're all called B. Just add them to the list. And I could say, let's make 100 bubbles. And I do that like that. Okay? Or I could say, let's make 1,000 bubbles. And I do that like that. Okay? And so a lot of your old games, you can change and just have one by adding a for loop like this. Now, that's not the only place that for loop exists. This is where I create the bubbles. If I go down to paint, this is where I paint and move the bubbles. Same code, right? For I equals 0 to the list size, so however many items there are in the list. So if there's 3, we do it 3 times. I equals I plus 1, we go to the next bubble. And all I'm saying is bubble B equals get me the bubble out of the list. Get me the first bubble, get me the second bubble, get me the third bubble, get me the fourth bubble. They're all called B. And then G.setColor, whatever that bubble is. B.move, move that bubble. And then G.fillOval, draw an oval wherever the bubble is. And then I move to the next one, and it happens 3 times or 1,000 times or whatever I added right here. Okay? I think we're done. I do have a mouse. I have a mouse pressed. What does that do? Anyone take a guess? Yep.
It listens for your mouse and sees you press anything.
And then what? What does it do when I do press something?
It puts the code at whatever you type into.
Yeah, but what does that code do? Do you know, Angus? It makes a new bubble. B equals new bubble. And it puts b.x equals e.getx. It puts the bubble at the mouse location, and then it adds it to the list. If I don't add it to the list, nothing happens because the paint is only printing, is only looking through what's in the list. Okay? So if we want to test that that code works, we can actually, 1,000 is too many. Let's go to 10. I've got 10 bubbles, and now I can add more bubbles. Okay? A couple things we need to do to this. We need to give it gravity, and we also need to find a way to split the bubbles, like in that Bubble Trouble game. So I'm going to try and split the bubbles. Okay? So what I'll do is I'm going to start with 3 again because I don't want too many bubbles. I'm going to take the hero code from Raiden. Maybe I'll just code it. Let's code it. Public hero yeah, maybe I'll take it from Raiden because otherwise it's a lot of typing. And you can do this too because a lot of the code that we've done is kind of useful, right? So let's go to Raiden. I'm going to take one of the first ones. Yeah, class hero. That's actually pretty good, right? So I'm going to take that code and I'm going to put it in here. So we have a hero now. Now we need to define that hero. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go hero H1 or just maybe hero. H1 implies there's going to be more of them, but there's only one. I have to initialize that hero equals new hero. I have to paint the hero. Let's go back to the code. I bet you I have it right up here. I can paint the hero in paint. That paints the hero, H. I use the code H in there, so maybe I'll use H here too. H. H. Let's see, do I see the hero? Yeah, there's the hero. Perfect. Now, let's go back here. I need to make it so that when I hit the keyboard, I move the hero. So let's go back here. In Pong, we have that. Add key listener. Coming back here. And when I add key listener, I need to have a few functions. So let's go key pressed, key released. Is there another one? And key typed. Okay? And actually what's cool about this, I bet you a lot of this code is just going to work. Let's go back here and paste those in. Key released, key pressed. Actually, it's not working. Let's make it h.x equals h.x plus 10. That'll move its x value in one way. This will move the x value in the other way. And I think what I didn't do so far is I didn't implement key listener. Okay, so is this going to work now? So it's working. Okay, I want to use the right and left. Right is 39, left is 37. So let's do that. 39, 37. Okay, so I got a guy moving. Okay. I'm going to leave it here. I was going to split the bubbles, but that's probably a lot for one little session. I want what your challenge today is to get a guy moving right and left, put him in the right spot at the bottom, okay? And if you can, get him shooting lasers. And tomorrow what we'll show is how to make the lasers split the bubble. Any questions? Okay.